put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning and welcome to the morning show on Tobago Updates. This is the day that the Lord has made and we will rejoice and be glad in it. I am Adana Kombi and today we have a beautiful show for you with lots of talks. Of course, we had our budget presentation yesterday, so we're going to be talking a little bit about that. But before we get our program started, of course, we go straight to the news in 90 seconds.
Thank you, Adana. I am Diana Brebner, and here is your news in 90 seconds for Tuesday, 3rd October 2023. Deputy Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Dr. Faith B. Israel, characterized the 2024 budget allocation of $2.58 billion to Tobago as a weapon against development for Tobago. The THA had originally requested $4.54 billion from central government. However, during the budget presentation in the House of Representatives yesterday, Finance Minister Colin Imbert detailed the allocation breakdown: $2.298 million for recurrent expenditure, $260 million for development program, and $18 million for the unemployment relief program. He highlighted that this allocation marked an increase of $64.2 billion. The government has increased the minimum wage to 17% effective January 1st, 2024 to improve the financial well-being of the low-income individuals. Finance Minister Colin Imbert noted that this wage increase is equivalent to $3 per hour from $17.50 to $20.50 per hour will raise the annual government spending by at least $15 million. Providing an extra $500 per month for those on a standard 40-hour work week. Additionally, the government has approved a $1 billion Christmas bonus for public sector workers who accepted a 4% wage increase, and there are no plans for tax increases in 2024. And finally, in the fiscal year 2024, Finance Minister Colin Imbert has I read that again. Finance Minister Colin Imbert has earmarked an $8.02 billion for the education sector, marking the highest allocation in the budget. During his budget statement yesterday, he detailed a series of initiatives the government plans to implement in the sector over the next year. One such initiative involves introducing a means-tested school supply grant of $1,000 in 2024. This program aimed at assisting 65,000 students with an estimated cost of $65 million and will cover expenses related to school supplies such as uniforms, shoes, book bags, stationeries, and books. And that concludes your news in 90 seconds.
Thank you, Biana, and we're back with the morning show on Tobago Updates. And of course, Julian is on set with us.
Yes. Good morning, and welcome to each and everyone. A pleasure to be here, most certainly. And more importantly, we've just had that budget presentation yesterday. And you know how we do it in Trinidad and Tobago. We're going to spend the next few days or so really seeking to try to dissect and to get into the specifics. But one must indicate, Adana, what we saw yesterday appears to be a lot of giving. And, it took me right back to the interview we had where I asked and I anticipated, what do you think we can expect?
Right.
The minister actually said there was definitely you saw a concerted effort not to, increase in terms of taxes or things of that sort, implementing any kind of major additional cost. I think the only the main thing from that perspective is the reintroduction of the property tax.
That's right.
That is scheduled to come in 2024, and we'll see if that comes any at all within this year based on the circumstances. But what's pretty important now is to hear that further rollout that will come from the ministers themselves as they seek to go into more details regarding the plans that would have been presented yesterday.
Right.
But it would be a very interesting discussion up ahead.
That's right.
And I think that lines up very well with our guest for today.
Yes,
who do we have on the rundown, Adana?
Right, of course, we're having conversations as it relates to the budget because, I mean, that's the topic right now. We're speaking with Mr. Michael Anisette. He's the General Secretary of NATUC, that's the National Trade Union Center, right? And we're speaking about the minimum wage increase. That's a primary discussion there. We're speaking, of course, with Mr. Max James. He's a former assemblyman of the THA, and we're going to do a little breakdown, I suppose, especially as it relates in the Tobago space.
Correct.
Right? And we round up our interviews with Miss Avian Parks. She is the Communications Director in the Office of the Chief Secretary. And we're talking about Tobago Day Awards 2023. So that's the show we have for you guys today. And we hope that you stay tuned with us as we continue to have these discussions and we bring out the issues as it relates to the budget and the Tobago space.
Let me use the minister's terms, a 17% increase in minimum wage. Folks, we're going to go into it. We're going to go into it with our further budget discussions. But at this point, we're heading straight on over to our birthday shout-out segment. Seems like we have a little delay there. That means I have more time to deal with the budget. So I heard this 17% announcement, and it's always interesting when we use the figures interchangeably. But I'm
percentages, that's right.
We use the percentage versus the dollar figure. We're just at about $3 per hour. It's an interesting thing. People anticipated and queried that it will be at $2 on the $17 to take it up to $19, but it should be between $20 and $25.
That's
right.
He
made it $20 and 50 cents. $20 and 50 cents.
We still had it 2 and the 5.
Correct.
Right?
It's interesting again the perspective in relation to the police seeking to increase severe, having a drastic increase in terms of the intake. I recall for some time now, my godfather, who is retired from the police service, he has always made the query. The amount of police that you have leaving in any given year versus those that are coming in. So I know this is certainly an announcement that he may welcome now that he's retired and enjoying life outside of the police service.
That's right.
All right, but at this point, viewers, we're heading into our birthday shout-outs.
Yes, I'm celebrating a birthday today is JCN Andrews. JCN, we wish you a very happy birthday coming from all of us here at the Tobago Updates Television. We do hope that you enjoy your day and that you receive the blessings that God has in store for you.
This is a birthday shout-out to Lavian Ashby Cupid. And I'd like to say, Lady Lavian, sending you a happy birthday going out to you. We trust that you will continue to enjoy the birthday celebrations. And I know that, the celebrations may start today and head straight on into the weekend. Well deserved. Ensure that you enjoy it fully. Happy birthday. All right, viewers. At this point, we're preparing to head straight on into Tobago in Focus.
One of the major learning curves encountered during the COVID-19 pandemic was the increased use of innovation and technology to conduct daily functions. This major hurdle affected the country's education sector tremendously, with teachers, students, and parents having to quickly find ways to continue teaching and learning using these means. Post-pandemic, the Division of Education, Research and Technology is finding ways to integrate online and in-person learning and teaching, thus establishing the Hybrid Education Committee.
A committee was put together, made up of persons within the Division of Education, principals, parents, etc., a large, varied stakeholder group, and we are working towards developing a very pragmatic policy guideline to help us to utilize all of the positive things that we got through the pandemic, along with our face-to-face.
This new initiative seeks to reduce teaching and learning loss due to several factors, such as unpredictable weather patterns or another pandemic situation. From early childhood to tertiary level education are represented on the committee, with multi-departmental input and expertise from the division. Technical advisor from DIRTEC, Natasha Second assured that this initiative is not just another talk shop, and the committee is well on its way to fulfill a seamless integration among all educational institutions on the island.
We wanted to look at all of the challenges and place a solution for each of them. So the guideline or the policy guidelines will meet all of the challenges that we could perceive of.
Ms. Second revealed that the committee, formed in April 2023, has a 6-month implementation deadline, which will include a pilot project in selected schools and the delivery of the completed policy and guidelines.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. All right, in this segment, we head on in and we welcome joining us online, Michael Anisette, General Secretary of NATO. Good morning to you, sir.
Pleasant morning to you on Tobago. Blessings always.
All right. Well, we're heading straight on in, and I want to get your very first reaction given the budget that would have been presented yesterday.
Well, my first reaction is the same old. 4 hours and 7 minutes reading with a lot of issues. But within the trade union movement, we are more concerned of how we're going to take the economy to another level where the inequalities of income and wealth, the wealth gap, will be addressed, where sustainability in terms of growth and where diversification and productivity and competitiveness becomes part of our DNA and part of who we are as Trinidadians and Tobagonians. We haven't seen that in the budget, and therefore we have some concerns.
All right, I want you to give us your take. It's been some time since we have seen an increase in the minimum wage. In particular, we saw a movement from 1750 to 2050. What's your take? You should probably be very pleased that there is some kind of upward movement on the part of trade unions.
All right, let me answer that. There is this mistaken notion about increases of the minimum wage. What is a minimum wage? A minimum wage is the minimum that you pay to workers legally. That is what a minimum wage is all about. So we need to understand and contextualize what that means. Is the minimum amount of wages per hour you can pay to a worker. We have been articulating and will continue to articulate that the question of living wages and decent wages must become part of the economic landscape of Trinidad and Tobago. We cannot, as a society, we cannot disregard what are the economic realities that are facing the minimum workers, because they are the most vulnerable within our society. And the issue within the trade union movement is not if you increase the minimum wage. The issue is whether the minimum wage can address the economic realities that are facing those workers who work for the minimum wages. And we are saying that the 2050 doesn't address those fundamental economic paradigms.
Right. So we agree, we understand what you're saying, but when we're talking about the economy and how the increase affects the economy, we also have to consider the end from the employer's standpoint, because now you're saying, I mean, we all want an increase. We all expect an increase. We all look forward to an increase because our economical state demands an increase for us to meet our basic and specific needs in our lives, right? But we also have to look at how it balances back with the employer, because now they are having to pay increased wages, which means that, of course, now their output will cost more. The demand for their services, their products rather, would increase. The cost of their products would increase. Their output would increase. So it's a chain effect all around. So tell us how you think about, what do you think about how is that going to balance back to the employer, the place of the employer?
No, you see,
especially in
I
the
do not,
private sector.
I do not share your view, unfortunately. That is
That's fair.
neoclassical economics that you are speaking of. What economic has demonstrated, and it is now being pushed by the ILO, which is where wage-led growth and job-led growth as a new economic policy and philosophy that will drive your economy to a level that is in terms of sustainability. That is one. The second issue is that while you talk about the employers, I am quite aware that over the 5 years period or the 4 years period where the minimum wage was at 1750, there has been astronomical increase in cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago, which you cannot deny. And I did not see anyone talking about the profit margin that has been made by a few people within the economy. All right, I haven't seen anybody mention what the government is doing to address the high cost of living that the average citizen, the minimum worker, the workers, the government employees who have been offered 4% over 6 years have to face for the last 10 years. And if you just look at economics and a budget in terms of figures, and if we don't understand that economic is about people, the very existence of your people and your society, and more so the vulnerable, the single women and the youths, we're going to find some problems. Let me give you one example. Has anyone worked out what the 2050 per hour represents? The 2050 represents $3,552.65. Our average house in Trinidad and Tobago for rental for a 2-bedroom in certain areas, that is the minimum amount, is $2,500. So that if I am working on the minimum wage, I have to fork out $2,500 to pay for a rental of my home. And that is in particular areas. Therefore, when you subtract $2,500 from $3,552.65, you end up with a disposable income of only $1,052.65 that you are required to make you survive for the month. And if you are a parent that have 3 children, let us be real, even one child does $1,052.65 address your needs financially, and you need to pay your light bill, you need to send your children to school, you need to buy school books, you need to pay NIS and all the other items that you have to pay. So then, in terms of Trinidad economic growth, in terms of Trinidad food and prices, in terms of the fact that they're going to raise electricity and transport has been raised, are we serious as a people in saying that $1,052.65 is adequate for any family to survive in Trinidad and or Tobago, where the cost in Tobago is much higher? Those are the facts that people are not talking about. It's not that I get an increase. Let me make that clear. It's whether or not the increase that I get will make me sustainable over the period. And let me talk about the economic now. I want
to get from you, in any real situation, and you have been around this business for some time, when have you seen that in the politics, no matter which political party is there, the increase getting to that point to be ideal, so to speak?
No, but you see, this is a conversation that we have to have. Are we going to build a society that is sustainable? Are we going to develop a middle income class? Are we going to develop a society that has sustainable jobs and real wages as the ILO speaks of by maintaining a minimum wage, which is the lowest rate you have to pay workers in a society where the workers have no control over the cost of living. Let us be serious. The cost of living has grown by almost 35 percentage points. That is NATU's analysis. And therefore, we have found ourselves in a situation where we are giving out food baskets as I speak to you because there are workers who cannot meet their daily commitments in terms of how they mind their children. Do you know, if I do not support my child or my children by giving them proper nutrition in terms of what I buy for them, there is a problem for that child cognitive development skill. Do you know that in some communities they only eat proteins and chicken sometimes once a week? And those are the realities, brothers and sisters of Trinidad and Tobago, that we are facing. So for us to talk about minimum wages and then the government, that is not the issue. The issue is how do we solve the inequality that exists in Trinidad and Tobago, where a few people benefit immensely and the majority of workers are asked to live on salaries from paycheck to paycheck. Some cannot even make paycheck to paychecks, right? What kind of society do we want to build? And I think that is the conversation that we have to have as opposed to minimum wage. The trade union movement would not fall into the trap of discussing a minimum wage. We want to discuss the issue of living wages. We want to discuss the issue of job-led growth and wage-led growth, which the ILO, which this government is part of, which the UN, based on their goals for 2030, talks about the elimination of poverty and inequality that exists globally.
So bearing this in mind, would you say, and we're moving on to another area here, where it is we saw a number of unions confirm again within we saw the police, tutor, prisons, fire, and so on, accepting the 4%, and the minister indicating that, if my information is correct, he made $1 billion available to be paid out in back pay by Christmas of this year. Is that then an indication, based on the cries that you are now highlighting, that the union or the other unions that have not yet accepted would be more inclined to accept so that people can get something in their hands going into Christmas? Or is it that the union intends to continue to hold out in anticipation that things will get better as far as the offer for that outstanding period?
All right, herein lies the problem in Trinidad and Tobago, and you have stated it. You get money for Christmas. Why it is that the government would choose to give this $1 billion in back pay during Christmas time? What is the psychology that is based on that? The issue of the police service accepting the 4%, that is their rights. But what we are saying within the labor movement, what we are saying, that until we develop a sustainable economy, and an economy that speaks to productivity, an economy that speaks to competitiveness, an economy where the income equality is addressed, we're going to have serious social problems within our social fabric that we are witnessing in Trinidad and Tobago. Poverty, as has been demonstrated in every country, and corruption, right, and unethical behavior are some of the root causes of violence in countries. I didn't say that there are socialists and other studies that has been done by the ILO and the very UN, who is talking about developing the 17 goals for 2030, which speaks to eliminating poverty and ensuring that there are sustainable jobs and decent wages for workers. It's not Michael Anisette who is saying that. It's the UN and the ILO, because they have done the empirical studies and they are demonstrated that if a society has to move forward, the issue is not paying me Christmas. Who benefits when I get paid in Christmas? Does the business community, with the greatest respect to them, who buy goods and services from away and market up astronomically, do they really put back money within the society? And let me tell you, and I will tell Tobagonians who are listening to the trade union movement, it is we the workers who keep an economy going. And when you do not have what I will want to call sufficient disposable income in your hands to meet your basic needs and also to save money, the economy suffers. The economy is about me, it's about you. And therefore, we must have the conversation on how do we build a better Trinidad and Tobago, e.g. Singapore. Singapore is smaller than Trinidad and Tobago. Singapore has 4-point-something million people, but you know Singapore is ranked as in the first 5 countries in terms of income equality and sustainable income and sustainable jobs. What Singapore would have done? Why don't we learn from Singapore? Let us look at Botswana, which is now developing. It's about leadership. It's about policy decision. It's about how you redistribute the wealth that you get. And the redistribution must not be skewed to a certain amount of people. When I look at the budget that has been given to the Minister of Works and Transport, I have to laugh. Who benefits from that? May I ask the question? Is a few companies who do roads repairs, right? Is it the majority of the citizen will benefit? And the minister say you want to stimulate economic growth because he recognized that is important and he wants to pay people the wages. That is why he is paying the money, because he recognizes to stimulate economic growth that you must have decent and well-paid jobs in any society. And that is an economic fact that no one can deny.
Right. Mr. Anisette, thank you so much for having this conversation with us this morning here, speaking about having to have conversations about the living issues, the job wage growth. These are the conversations that you're saying we need to have to improve our standard of living in Trinidad and Tobago, to be competitive and to be able to enjoy a good standard of living. Thank you so much for having this conversation with us. And we continue to have talks about the budget 2023-2024, as we move forward in our program this morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Anisette, for being here with us.
Thanks and blessings to Trinidad and Tobago. And as I say, work out what the 2050 represents and what disposable income that the worker will have in their hands. And minimum wages is not the conversation. It's supposed to be sustainable and living wages. That is what the trade union wants to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been speaking with Mr. Michael Anisette, and he is the General Secretary of the NATUC, right? And we were having conversations about the budget, of course, and the minimum wage. We are going to go to a short break, but of course, we ask you to stay with us as we continue conversations on this topic. And before we go, of course, we invite you to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be back.
Tobago Carnival, Caribbean Vibes presents Tequila Sunset. Tequila Sunset, October 27th. Scarborough Esplanade from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's a cooler fete like no other. Bring your squad and we'll take care of the vibe with your top TNT and New York DJs, surprise guest artists. Tequila Sunset will be an epic event you will never forget. Early bird tickets are $199 TT or $30 US. Get your tickets online on islandetickets.com or frontlineticketing.com. For more info, call 475-6218 or 754-7344. And New York, 917-561-9742. All drinks must be in plastic bottles and no ice or chaser allowed. Tequila Sunset, October 27th, Scarborough Esplanade.
Yes, it's very own Carnival.
She like loud music and
Platinum touch.
yeah.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. I'm Julian Skeet, and in this segment, we are going to be chatting with Max James, a former assemblyman of the Tobago House of Assembly. And yes, we're speaking budget 2020, fiscal 2024, presented yesterday by the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Colum Imbud, just at around over $59 billion package that would have been presented there. Good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Julian, and thank you for having me once more.
All right. So as we start off, I want to start with the opener. We have seen the budget presentation. I know based on your background in terms of labor and so on, we have seen increases in minimum wage. We have seen some offerings specific to wanting to assist parents who may have challenges in terms of through students, $1,000 grant being conceptualized, and the list goes on. Your thoughts?
Well,
let's get your overall perspective first.
The budget frightens me as a Tobagonian who has been in the struggle for so many years, and it seems like the hole that we are in is getting deeper. I see the budget as a recipe for Tobagonians migrating to Trinidad and elsewhere. Clearly, there are no opportunities in it for Tobagonians. And clearly, we can't continue to survive and to accommodate this relationship that we call Trinidad and Tobago. In my own mind and my own opinion, I believe we are standing on the threshold of separation. And this has been going on for too long. It has been going, we can stay at this stage now, Julian, and predict what next year's budget for Tobago is likely to be. The overall figure will increase, but what we got, $2.6 billion on this occasion?
Yes, just about 2.585, yes.
And we're likely to get maybe a $60 billion next year and get a little percentage of that. It's a budget in which you see a plethora of goodies for Trinidadians, people who live in Trinidad. All the things that you said there, the roads, healthcare, incentives across all the sectors. And so sector-wide, you have so many opportunities and incentives for Trinidadians. Our government here in Tobago submitted a budget hoping to receive the funds that we asked for so that we could have a better way of life in Tobago. That's what our assembly did, our government here did. And the Minister of Finance could laugh and say, he wishes us well. For me, that was a pivotal statement. For me, it epitomizes how Trinidadians look at us, or the government look at us. And it's another installment where our efforts to develop Tobago has been stultified. It doesn't offer us any hope because we cannot live on a measly budget. We can't develop on a measly budget of $2.6 billion, I think it is. So he says, okay, you did the right things in the budget. However, I wish you well. How does the Chief Secretary and his cabinet here, how they reprioritize? There are insufficient funds for infrastructural development. There are insufficient funds out of $220 million thereabout for roads development, agricultural equipment, to develop a tourism plant. The things that will begin to generate funds for us to, and then you have on the other side where we have aging equipment at Spell, where we can't begin to purchase the kinds of equipment that Spell can perhaps, that's a study park quarry, where Spell can perhaps bring in the kinds of revenue generation, so that I do not see it auguring well for Tobago and for Tobagonians, and it will be a continuing exodus of our people. So that I think, and this is my profound view, that we in Tobago have to prepare ourselves for secession. It's not going to happen next year. A better budget for us is not going to happen next year, especially when it comes to an election year within the next year. So that, because you know the budget for next year when it comes will be just before the elections are due to be called. So they're not going to give you any more money to make you look good. So I don't see any silver lining in respect of the autonomy bill that they're talking about.
So what I want to get, how
Yes.
do we then respond to the fact this year we've seen the budgetary allocation for Tobago is 2.585 billion. We have a scenario where 2.298 billion out of that, and it's very important to note, is for recurrent expenditure. So that goes towards covering salaries and in terms of sustaining the jobs that exist by and large within the Tobago space, and 260 million for the development program. However, this has been touted as an overall total increase of 64.2 million over the 2023 allocation, and then the minister went on further to talk about over about 600, I think it's another 600 million or so that will be coming to Tobago through ministries. How do you then respond to say, in the circumstances, it would appear that Tobago is getting more?
The man is crazy. $64 million is like building $64 million houses, or building 120 houses at $500,000. You see how incredible it is. So that is nothing to shout about or boast about or applaud or to be happy about. This is not significant and a significant installment or increase in terms of what we are asking for. We are talking about, did you listen to the Secretary of Infrastructure and the Secretary for Agriculture, the Secretary for Tourism, in terms of the development plans for those sectors and areas? So we don't have any money to do anything. Whither goes Tobago? It's a perennial charade, it's a perennial whipping that we get by the government. There's no sincerity, there's no significant initiative to assist the Assembly to develop Tobago. Look at what happened to the Cabo Star. We were on the verge of beginning to starve in Tobago. Supermarket shelves were beginning to diminish. Food prices went up. The cost of lumber and hardwares went up. And hadn't the Cabo Star been repaired very quickly, we have had a calamity here in Tobago. So we need to, the Assembly, our government here in Tobago, and the Assembly as a whole, we need to speak with one voice. We're asking the PNM to get on board with the rest of Tobago, and we begin to plan for our autonomy, plan for Tobago's development in a serious way. But under the present environment, that seems impossible. And I want to urge this Assembly, this Executive Council, to begin to plan in significant and serious ways where Tobago can sustain itself as if Trinidad did not exist. Unfortunately, the holders, the power brokers in Trinidad would not allow that, because they see themselves as wanting to hold on to Tobago seats, although their efforts so far doesn't seem to bear that kind of fruit. And apparently, if it is that this Assembly keeps along the trajectory it's going, they're likely to lose the 2 seats. However, I don't see anything worthwhile in this budget for Tobago. It's a budget that, in fact, diminishes our efforts to develop Tobago as is envisioned by the Executive Council.
So would you say, when we look at what has been allocated, If one is to seriously consider over the years, no matter the political administration, whether it was the People's Partnership, whether it was the current PNM administration, the development budget ultimately has been in and around the same, falling as part of that whole 4.3, just over, in terms of the percentage, closer to the minimum line and not the upper line of 6.9. Would we then see that it is probably unrealistic that the THA would have expected to receive more in these circumstances? And just as you are rightfully saying, in a time where the people of Tobago responded by saying, no, we have rejected the People's National Movement in Tobago. We want a new administration to manage our affairs. Did we expect things to get better, or much better rather, financially in those circumstances beyond the 4.3? Was that a practical expectation?
Well, you have to have hope, because the PNM has business persons here. People voted for them to go east and west. So you have to have hope. That's the best we can do. The alternative to that is to break away. If you give me one reason, I only want one reason, Julian. Maybe we could talk about it here. Give me one reason for Tobago to stay with Trinidad in the circumstances that we found ourselves in the last 22 years.
Well, some may say, some who have listened to the budget may speak about the fact that they're seeing an increase in the minimum wage.
Those are not fundamental things.
To 20, they're seeing the grants that we spoke
$3,
about.
that's stay in the relationship for?
Well, it may not be fundamental depending on where you sit. If you are a minimum wage worker and you have been receiving closer to the 1750, in fact, the 1750 couldn't even cover your living expenses in the first instance. You're very grateful to possibly be receiving more. Would you not say some of those factors will reach in terms of the average citizen who probably sees
that
themselves as being in need?
That $3 increase in the minimum wage has already been wiped out by inflation. That $3 increase is not fundamental when you look at the other areas of living and livelihood requirements in Trinidad and Tobago.
So what would
So I wouldn't stay in a relationship for $3. So I'm still asking the question to any fair-minded Tobagonian, any right-thinking Tobagonian. Give me one reason. So, let's escalate. Give me two reasons why we really want to stay in this relationship where we have seen a downward spiral of conditions, living conditions in Tobago. What is the aspiration for young professionals who want to stay here? What the private sector has not developed in any significant way, so that people who come back home with their degrees, their master's degrees, their doctorate, they can't stay here. What this executive council has done through their planning, whether you agree with them or not, they want to have the port built, they want to have Scarborough improved, or tourism plant improved, or agricultural facilities and incentives that we could introduce to have farmers who can produce products and byproducts from the agricultural activities and so on. It's to open up the country, Tobago as a country, to an improved standard of living where people can say, we want to stay at home. Because we're having opportunities to stay up. We're having reasons to stay at home because we're having these incentives, business will thrive, and so forth. In so far as that is concerned, we have seen no real effort by this government to as my friend Lloyd Best used to say, to ensure that the other half of the nation is in a position to even help out the other half of the nation. And what is worrying is that we have all this gas and oil that they've been stealing for ever since we have known Tobago. And then you give me a little 4 cents. So this notion about the $1,000 book grant, that is good. It's a good measure, I'll admit that. The $3 increase, it's a welcome increase because people are likely to carry between an extra $300 or $400, and therefore the disposable income hopefully will improve and might assist perhaps in a better way of life for them. $500 increase, $400 increase in the pay is something worthy to talk about. But other than that, this budget sets Tobago to be disseminated by the economic circumstances in which we find ourselves. We cannot build roads and bridges or general infrastructure. It calls for a lot of maintenance in rainy season. You see what happened in the Pitikarim, the little dry season there a while ago, and as soon as the rains began to fall, we had a lot of landslides. So we have an aging infrastructure that was abandoned by the P&M over the last 20 years, or as the case may be. But we need money to significantly improve our plant and equipment, provide for development of agriculture, for infrastructure in agriculture and tourism and all the other areas. So it doesn't give us hope here in Tobago.
So this now means that the THA has, and even continues to have the challenge, and has to seek to overcome that challenge. How am I now going to use the very limited sum of 260 million in addition to other areas to seek to advance Tobago? Is that now one of the very real challenges that is put before the Tobago House of Assembly?
Of course, and I want to broaden the answer by saying Tobagonians generally, because they rely on the public policy, they rely on the Assembly, which is the largest employer in Tobago. It must be in a position to offer better jobs, better infrastructure, better opportunities, better incentives to develop a professional class. If I weren't entrenched in Tobago, I would have been long gone, because there's nothing here to keep the young and upcoming professional. If teachers and police officers weren't embedded here in Tobago, they would have long gone, many of whom have gone away. Because you can't, the arrangement between Tobago and Trinidad does not put us here in Tobago in a situation where we can be working for the kinds of salaries that give us a better standard and quality of life. And I think if we in Tobago begin to understand that under this arrangement, we will not have a better standard of life unless we see that and understand that, then we're in a very sorry situation, Julian.
So some people have the fear, and I'd like you to respond to that. You speak to moving to that better way of life and a greater level of autonomy. How do you see Tobago being able to sustain itself if that drastic move is made in terms of secession?
Well, the first thing, we'll go with all our gas and oil, which will bring us significant revenues to do anything we want.
But when we have to have a greater level of output, per se, in terms of being able to develop industry here in Tobago, to be able to really maximize even access to the gas and oil that we see falls within our boundaries?
Well, the companies are here. We pay them for mining the oil and getting it in the way that is getting it to market. So we have that. The question is, where do we stay and die, or we leave and live? That's the issue. You see, when Eric Williams went to England, Trinidadians didn't say, how are we going to live, He knew he had Shell and Tesoro and all the oil companies right up to the 1980s. And Trinidad enjoyed the oil boom. What did we get? Even when Robinson built the runway and the seaport, which Rowley called a duck pond. You remember those two? They said Robinson was spending wee money in Tobago. The idea is, I'm not seeing any incentive for the young professional to live and to stay here. As I'm asking Tobagonians, tell me when you see me on the streets, give me two reasons for sustain this relationship. I'm not talking about a $3 minimum wage increase, because I've been paying my workers more than the $17.50 already. So it doesn't help. Most people, you see, the Minister of Finance uses that chickenery, that trick, to say, I have increased the minimum wage. Do you think employers are going to pay workers more than they're already paying them in this hard and harsh go-over season time? They're already receiving more than the minimum wage. So it's a political ploy to say, well, we are doing this for you. So there's no benefit to the measure as announced increasing the minimum wage. This is why the unions have been saying $125 and $30. Because they know, we know as a trade unionist or a former trade unionist, we know that workers generally across the nation have already been paid more than the minimum wage.
I want you to tell us a little bit.
So there's no benefit to the measure. it's just nice talk.
Your thoughts in relation to the announcement of the introduction of the reintroduction rather of the property tax, and where we will see those revenues being able to benefit in local government bodies in Trinidad. What are your thoughts in relation to that?
Well, in the Tobago case, our source of funds, meaning when the property tax is collected here, we will know the true value of the Tobago economy. So, and it might perhaps likely show us what Tobago is really worth in respect of its contribution to the nation. So we can say, well, we are collecting this, and therefore you can't give us less than we are collecting. So the insurance companies, the chief secretary and his team need to enforce that provision in the act and force them to pay. And then we begin to collect the increases from the various landowners and property owners and so forth. We will know, we'll be in a better position to calculate and understand Tobago's contribution. And so it gives us a bargaining chip to say, we want more because we are already contributing more than even what you're giving us. So it has that benefit. But some people would like me to say that the property tax is a good thing. Now, I think it's a good thing in respect of the value of my property. I think it's a good thing, as I said before, in terms of calculating what Tobago contributes, all right? And I don't think it's very onerous because it works out to be like about $83 a month. We spend that on boyfriends and girlfriends and on liquor and having a good party time. So I think if we are serious as a nation, as a people, I wouldn't knock it too much. I don't welcome it because more money.
But you just said it's a good thing.
But it's a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing. There are some good things you don't welcome, but they're necessary. but they're necessary. You know, I don't have much fault with it.
Would we therefore say, in terms of even looking at that kind of situation and the broader perspective, that the THA now needs to get down to the wheels, look at what has been allocated, and now we look forward to what would be the revised allocations and how it is going to approach development in the island? Because whether we believe it or not, the reality is this is what some may describe as the second to last budget before the last one is presented next year. And by last, I simply mean in relation to what is the constitutionally due date for elections come 2025 in terms of the general elections.
Those special events.
Correct, followed by the THA elections. And you know, sometimes when we look at the picture, you say what you want about developing and advancing a country. Any administration seeks to ensure that you're responding to the needs of the people in order to try to get back in office. Would we now say that the THA has to get down to the grind in terms of looking at its revised allocations and, more importantly, figuring out how you're going to ensure that you seek to derive even more benefit, notwithstanding the limited amount of funds being given for development in Tobago?
Well, it's
as the harsh reality.
Yes, I think it's not only just reprioritizing, but the behavior of our cabinet here. Everything that they do will be under the spotlight, so they will have to be very careful in terms of all their collective actions, how they meet and treat with the people. All of their decision making will be under scrutiny. And how wisely have they prioritized or reprioritized what has been given to them? So it will be a collective effort in terms of not just the budget, but in terms of the entire decision making. Of course, key, we want to look at what has been prioritized. And that will be a task. I don't envy them. It's an unfortunate position that this present assembly has found itself. And let me use the words of the finance minister. I wish them well, but I think they will surmount the challenges. I think they have fine professionals within the Executive Council. I think that Tobago would need to rally around them So we will see exactly how they prosecute this particular neck of the woods that they have found us, and we in Tobago have found us. So I think they will need every bit of support, every positive bit of support that we can. But they also have an enjoining responsibility, or let me say, so that will be our enjoining response, but they have a responsibility first up to make sure that all that they do and say can continue to ingratiate to support and the people in terms of their needs. So it's going to be a very difficult task. But I think that if they can move around Tobago and show them the kind of autonomy that we want, that we would have voted for, that we would have sent down to Parliament, I think they will have to sell that. But in order to sell that, we expect them, we were hoping that they will do positive things so that they'll have the people on their side. So when the bell rings later, in the next 2 years or so, people will continue to vote for the party that is currently in power in the Assembly. I don't think it should present much of a challenge. They will have to find innovative means of financing the projects that will be beneficial to Tobago.
Yes.
And I think that they will need to pursue that with expedition and with alacrity to ensure that they succeed in terms of those projects that we have been waiting on. The development of Scarborough, our port, certainly our tourism plant and that we have here, and our agricultural activities. I think those 4 areas are what they should need to focus on so we can bring home the things that Tobagonians have been expecting or urging for over the last 20 odd years.
All right, well, we got to leave it there this morning. I mean, so much more things that Max James has just touched on there in his closing remarks, but we don't have enough time this morning, but the conversation will certainly continue in relation to the budget for fiscal 2024. And we want to say thank you, Max James, former assemblyman here in the Tobago House of Assembly, for joining us on set as we continue to discuss the budget here at the national level, Trinidad and Tobago, and more specifically, the allocation coming to Tobago. Viewers, we want to thank you for the continued love and support and for choosing the Tobago Updates morning show, and to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.
So what was this green paper all about? Several persons, including representatives from governmental and non-governmental organizations, had their say regarding the national HIV and AIDS policy, focusing on areas such as prevention, treatment, care and support, as well as advocacy and human rights.
It is estimated that the total number of persons living with HIV in Trinidad and Tobago is just over 11,000. The NAC, in its efforts, is working towards reducing this figure, and it is at this time attempting to meet the United Nations targets of 95% of persons living with HIV knowing their status, 95% of persons knowing their status being on treatment, and 95% of persons on treatment being virally suppressed.
This year, 2023, marks 40 years since the first case of HIV was reported in North Twin Island Republic. Since then, we have made several strides in our response towards epidemic control. Our successes include the provision of free treatment and care to all, which has changed the face of the epidemic from a communicable disease with high mortality to one with low and declining mortality and reduced rates of transmission in various subpopulations.
Think about how much money we really have to spend on health-related issues and all of the other health-related issues that are competing. think about the time that it will take to try to separate HIV-related stuff and do that separately versus possibly having a model that is more incorporated and inclusive. Think about the stigma and discrimination that still exists and how us trying to put a focus on HIV and AIDS may actually be adding to that stigma and that discrimination.
This consultation was spearheaded by the National AIDS Coordinating Committee. It's the third public stakeholder consultation on the National HIV and AIDS policy.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Rotisserie, mouth-watering fries, salads, combos, and specials galore. Feeling for something to eat? Come and see. Our rotisserie is seasoned to the T. Kicking chicken, masala, and jerk roast. Crispy fries made from scratch. Who do you know can't beat that? Or salads freshly cut and packed. When you taste it, you'll be wanting to come back. So come check us out on number 2 Robinson Street, Uptown Scarborough, Tobago. We open on Saturday nights from 7:30 to 11:30 p.m. Monday to Thursday, we're open from 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. and on Friday, 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Contact us at 772-7443 and all social media handles at The Rotisserie Factory.
Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Our national borders, our first step to security, but a possible access point for guns, drugs, crime. If it does not look right, do the right thing. Call Crime Stoppers anonymously. 800-8477. Report possible border crime.
Bad girl from Roxborough, Tobago, but if we go in your day clothes, I rate you. Grew up around good vibes and incense. Grew up in hard times that intense. Shut it as you're reaching at the dance. Use the topic as you're reaching at the dance. My girl, go and drop it as you're reaching at the dance. Making use of your talents when you balance back on the duns. Yes, yes. I know, baby. You want a man who take you serious. Not just beat and leave. You're fed up on the streets. Yes, yes, I know. I know, baby. You want a man who take you serious.
Welcome to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, your source for current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad, and the region. With the perfect conversations to complement your morning routine, I am Candace Jackson, and let's get started with the news in 90 seconds. Deputy Chief Secretary Dr. Faith B. Israel described the THA's allocation in the national budget as a weapon against development for Tobago. The THA originally requested $4.54 billion from central government, but received $2.282 billion. Broken down, $2.9298 billion is reserved for recurrent expenditure, $260 million for development program, and $18 million for the unemployment relief program, with $9.2 for CPEP. Finance Minister Com Imbert highlighted that this allocation marked an increase of $64.2 million from the previous year. The government has increased minimum wage by 17% from January 1st, 2024 to improve the financial well-being of the lower-income individuals. Finance Minister Com Imbert noted that this wage hike from $17.50 to $20.50 per hour will raise annual government spending by at least $50 million, providing an extra $500 per month for those on a standard 40-hour work week. Additionally, the government has approved a $1 billion Christmas bonus for public sector workers who accepted a 4% wage increase, and there are no plans for tax increases in 2024. And finally, in the fiscal year 2024, Finance Minister Com Imbert has earmarked $8.022 billion for the education sector, marking the highest allocation in the budget. During his budget statement yesterday, he detailed a series of initiatives the government plans to implement in the sector over the next year. One such initiative involves introducing a school supply grant of $1,000 in 2024 based on a means test. This program is aimed at assisting 65,000 disadvantaged students. It is estimated to cost $65 million and will cover expenses related to school supplies such as uniforms, shoes, book bags, stationery, and books. And that concludes your news in 90 seconds. And well, viewers, like I said, we had a bumper day yesterday with all the news of the budget, and hopefully you got a chance to look at what happened. I mean, I just gave you just a small smidgen of a snapshot. But for the next hour, we are going to be joined virtually by the Deputy Chief Secretary and the Secretary of Health, Wellness and Social Protection, Dr. Faith B. Israel, as we discuss the budget for the entirety of the next hour. Good morning and welcome to you, Dr. Faith.
Hi, good morning. It's wonderful being here.
Certainly. Now, first of all, you said that, yesterday when reporters and the media spoke to you yesterday, you said that the budget puts Tobago at a disadvantage. So I would like you just to elaborate a little bit on that point.
Certainly. Well, this is a game that we play every year. We've been playing this game for quite some time. The Tobago House of Assembly sent a request, in essence, that's about $4.56 billion, with the bulk of it being recurrent expenditure, because we have a large wage bill. We still need to pay the normal recurrent stuff. And we also asked for a significant chunk as it relates to development monies. Now, the development budget is what we call the investment into the country, the investment into the island. It is this kind of spend that allows economic growth. It is this kind of spend that allows to create industries that can then make money for the island. So when the Minister of Finance announced that we are at $260 million to do all of this spending, to do all of the investment, to do all of the development that is needed for the island, it caused me to seriously think, to seriously stop, and to seriously pause. Because in the same 4.5-hour presentation that he made yesterday, he highlighted several other development projects in Trinidad that far surpassed the spending that we are expected to do in Tobago. So, for example, he highlighted the fact that Hazley Crawford Stadium was refurbished for Commonwealth Games, which is great. We want the Commonwealth Games. And Hazley Crawford Stadium being refurbished is going to cost them 90 million. All of Tobago is getting 260 million. So Hazley Crawford alone refurbishments got 90 million. He spoke about the San Fernando Hospital car park being expanded, and that alone was $150 million. Now, I am not saying that the San Fernando Hospital car park does not need to be expanded. We are comparing $150 million to expand a car park compared to $260 million to develop a whole island. We could see why this budget was designed to specifically stymie the development plans of the Tobago House of Assembly, which is the development plan of Tobago.
Now, what was very interesting yesterday was that the minister, in his presentation when we were speaking about Tobago, he said that he supported a lot of the plans that were presented in June. And then he ended by a small statement saying, "I wish them luck." When you heard that statement, what was your reaction?
Well, I was sitting there. I actually traveled. I am still in Trinidad now. I traveled to the parliament to listen to it. And when I heard him indicate that, yes, the foundation of the Tobago House of Assembly budget request was sound. The policies that we used to create this budget were sound. They are based in science. They are based in us collecting data. They are based on us having this vision of creating a Tobago that is the greatest little island on the planet. When he said that, I thought, wow, now I am glad that he actually recognizes that we did not just pull these numbers out of our heads, that we actually have sat down at the Tobago House of Assembly and we have actively decided that these are the areas of priority for us. These are the areas that will cause to actually develop in a way that makes sense. Now, after going through all of that, he then, in a very snide, calm, imbue way, he wishes them luck. Basically said to me, we understand where you are going, we understand what you are trying to do, but we do not care. Not only do we not care, we seem to be actively trying to do everything to ensure that you do not get to your end goal. And that to me was probably the most disheartening part of the budget yesterday, because he could have at least pretended to care. Those in the past at least pretended to care. But he does not even hold that kind of ethics or regard for the people of Tobago to even pretend to care. And that to me says a whole lot. And I hope that Tobagonians paid key attention to that.
And after he said that, what was also interesting is that, the government is going to push ahead with their drive and what their idea of development is for Tobago. And then he mentioned several projects. What was your reaction also to that part of it in terms of, you all have a good plan? If you all could accomplish it, great, but they're pushing ahead with what they believe that is best for Tobago.
Yeah, what he did is a continual part of the plot to try to deceive Tobagonians, because this is the argument that they've made. We are complaining, as in we, the Tobago House of Assembly, are complaining that we've only gotten 260 million to do our entire development program. And they push back with this idea of no, other ministries in the government of Trinidad Tobago actually been allocated upwards of $678.5 million to do work in Tobago. Now, that would have been fine. I would have welcomed that if the work plan of these government agencies in the government of Trinidad and Tobago was aligned with the plans of Tobago and Tobagonians. Because we have gone through a very clear, a very strategic mechanism to get to the budget, to get to the priority projects that we do within each of our divisions. We work closely with our stakeholders. The members of the divisions actually get together and work very closely to determine what we do next and how we execute these projects next and so forth. See, if we had that same kind of collaboration with the relevant government ministry, we would then be able to say, sure, what you are planning to do as a government now is in line with what the people of Tobago have indicated to those who they've elected to represent them. It is in line with it. So let's go ahead, let's push ahead. We spend money, you spend that money, and we are fine. But that sadly has not happened. And I am speaking from my perspective in terms of Deputy Chief Secretary and Secretary with responsibility for health, wellness, and social protection as it relates to having any kind of real collaboration with the line ministers as it relates to any of these larger projects or anything like that in Tobago. Now, let's look at an example, though, of what he outlined as part of this 600 and whatever. 400 million of it is for the airport expansion project. We are close to 2 years being in the Tobago House of Assembly, the executive of the Tobago House of Assembly, and we know little more now than we did 2 years ago about the project. So we are still nowhere close to having a greater understanding of what this project means. All we've done in the background is tried to assist those residents who've been displaced and to try to make their lives a little easier. But into actual airport projects, we do not have the kind of information that we should have had. And it's not for want of trying, it's not for want of reaching out and the ministers and so forth. They've just simply refused. He also spoke about the Roxborough fire station. And I had to wonder if we're talking about the same Roxborough and if we're talking about the same Roxborough fire station that them themselves come up and open, must say last year before elections. Because that Roxborough fire station has been open and has been in use for several years at this point. Again, showing that he is not, or whoever put that in the budget, is certainly not what is happening in Tobago. Those two are just perfect examples of why this is such a charade. Now, the other thing is, they said this last year, and they said that they were going to spend 100 million in Tobago last year. And I am wondering if any Tobagonian can honestly look around in Tobago and identify where the government of Trinidad and Tobago spent about $700 million in Tobago. Because they just say this in the budget, and there is no real mechanism for them to account for those monies that they claim to want to spend. So you say it up front, and then the end of the fiscal goes by. I get costs for hospitals, Trevor gets costs for roads, Zorisha gets costs for the schools, but we do not see any of the millions that the government agencies have said that were spent on the island anyway. So again, going back to show that this is all just part of a game that they seem to be playing, except that this game really does actually affect Tobagonian lives.
But even when you look at that, what he quoted was the extra budgetary spend in Tobago through the various ministries. The only significant spend there is that of the $400 million for the airport terminal. The rest of it is like, 7.5 for the Hillsborough Dam, 1 point for the Roxborough, And we also know that a lot of the money would be for salaries for police officers, for fire, and those other recurrent expenditures on the national security and on the cast and so on. But it's just very interesting because, the airport terminal is being constructed not by a Tobago contractor, but by the Chinese railway company. So even though all that money is technically being spent in Tobago, but it's not being spent with a Tobago contractor.
Yes, and we even understand that in the contract with that, where there was a local content clause within the contract. They said a Tobago contractor had to have been given, or contractors had to have been given quite a bit of the work. We understand that those parts were then subcontracted to contractors outside. So you are 100% correct with that one. The monies, even though it is being spent on projects in Tobago, the economy of Tobago is not benefiting because the money is not staying in Tobago, and that is absolutely correct. But you also touched on the fact that the part, a big chunk of it, is also included in the 6th schedule item. So the police and the fire and those people. And what we've recognized coming in this year and some ago, less than 2 years ago, is that the Tobago House of Assembly, because we understand that the island of Tobago needs to be protected, and we understand that our entire the protective services needs to be comfortable and need to be able to do their jobs, or we will not be safe. The Tobago House of Assembly has actually been spending quite quote-unquote THA money on 6th schedule items. We are the ones who are renting police cars for the policemen to drive up and down. We are the ones who are spending for stays for hotels and guest houses and so forth for some of these individuals to stay. We are the ones who are retrofitting the prisons and the army barrack and all of that. It is the Tobago House of Assembly that's actually been chinksing from the little bit of money that we're already getting, doing these 6th schedule items spends, because the government and the Ministry of National Security simply is not doing it. So again, we understand what is needed for Tobago and Tobagonians to survive, and we are willing to do whatever it takes to make that a reality. This budget certainly, that they absolutely do not care about this island.
And we're going to get a bit more into some of the nitty-gritties of the budget and how it can affect Tobago when we come back after this break. So don't go anywhere.
To a brand new dawning as the passion start to rise, the energy fill the sky.
Mount Pleasant Credit Union Back to School Loan Promotion. Loans up to 15,000. Requirements: job letter and a payslip no more than 1 month old. Utility bill, copy of book list, salary deduction, 10% down payment. For self-employed persons, evidence of income and expenditure, bank statement, 12 to 18 months. Other supporting document. Promotion ends October 18. Contact us at 639-8375 or 8108, or check us out on www.mpcutobago.com or email us at loan@mpcutobago.com. Mount Pleasant Credit Union's Back to School Loan Promotion.
So your car break down.
Oh, no, not again.
And you're worried paying a wrecker could mean a pocket breakdown too. But when you're insured with Tatil, no stress.
Yes!
A Tatil motor policy has lots of benefits that protect your pocket, like free roadside assistance. That's free 24/7 every time, as many times as you need. Tatil, where people are people. A member of the Ansa McCall Group.
Inner Health, number 13B Portmore, Scarborough, Tobago, with over 25 years experience offering services in and not limited to microscopic blood analysis, reflexology, and the sale of a wide range of organic herbal products used to supplement thyroid, lymphatic, heart, kidney, and brain health, and the male and female reproductive systems. Come and chat with us. Remember, your health is your wealth.
But this place is boring enough. We don't even do nothing. Let me go somewhere now.
I really want some new things, yes?
Then look no further. Portmore is the place for you.
Oh, really?
Yes. You can have anything that your heart desires. Take a look for yourselves. A world of endless opportunities. Feeling hungry? Go get something to eat. Books and stationeries, games, and much more. Portmore, the island's beat.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are continuing our conversations this morning with Deputy Chief Secretary Dr. Faith B. Israel as we discuss the budget that was presented yesterday by Finance Minister Com Imbert. And we are continuing along. And before we went to the break, we were talking a little bit about some of the resources of the THA that had to be used on items under the 6th schedule, such as the police and so on. And the minister did touch on Coast Guard services and, getting some more vessels for Trinidad and so on. But we didn't hear any information on specifically repairing the vessels, like the Interceptor that's been down for 2 3 years. It's been down for a few years. Tobago does not have a Coast Guard vessel ready at its service. It has to wait until a vessel comes from Trinidad, and that only depends on the circumstance that the vessel is needed for. And even recently we had the situations where we had the drownings and so on, where they had to use the vessel of one of our divers to go and rescue or to recover the body and so on. So, I mean, it's just an interesting point where we're at right now, where we're not seeing that input from central government to fix some of these things.
It is sad. We've recognized that even though national security is a 6th schedule item and is not under the responsibility of the Tobago House of Assembly, we've been looking critically at what has been happening. We've kind of made a decision in the House of Assembly to figure out how to treat with our own island security. I can say that we've actually been working out a pretty detailed proposal to create an island security mechanism that will take into account what we need for the police, what we need in the sea, what we land and that kind of thing, and figure out how we could do it ourselves, because we've recognized that what has been happening or what is in place is woefully deficient, and we know that we are the ones who are held responsible when anything does. So we are ensuring that we take up the responsibility as the Tobago House of Assembly to secure the people who are on the island. Chief Secretary will be speaking more about that in the near future, but that is actually something that we have been looking at critically, because what is going on now simply is not working, and we just can't continue doing what is not working. I am hoping, though, that even though the Minister for Finance did not specifically speak about what they plan to do to improve national security in Tobago in the budget presentation, that the Minister for National Security would probably speak to that to some degree when he does his presentation later this week or next week, when they continue with the budget debates. So, we've decided that this is a responsibility that we need to take up, and we will figure out how to do it. We will figure out, as we've been figuring out how to do everything else that we've done thus far.
Certainly. Well, another thing that was spoken about quite a bit in the budget is that of property tax. And the minister gave the indication, he presented, what it would cost for residents and so on. And, sort of put the nation on notice that based on the judgments, based on the expectation of a favorable judgment by the end of the year, we would have the institution of property tax. But I noticed something interesting, because when he spoke about it, he spoke about it in the context of what is collected in property tax would be given to the 14 municipalities, and that's how they would get their funding to do what they need to do in their communities. But he didn't mention the THA. And I was wondering, has there been any conversation between the minister and the THA in regards to how the property tax will be rolled out in Tobago?
Certainly. So when he said that, coincidentally, I was sitting next to Mr. Anselm Richards, who is one of our advisors as it relates to finance, and he indicated that was a question this actually asked because a contingent from the finance division met with the minister sometime ago, and that was one of the questions they asked specifically. He assured me that at the meeting, the minister agreed that the Tobago House of Assembly would be the entity collecting the property tax in Tobago, and would be able to use it to do our work in Tobago the same way the municipalities would be allowed to do that in their areas in Trinidad. So the fact that he stated specifically, I'm not sure why he didn't state it specifically. I don't know where else there would be an opportunity to speak to that, but that was part of a previous conversation. Did get commitment that is how it is going to be. Now, it's important to note that the current Tobago House of Assembly Act does the Tobago House of Assembly the authority to collect all taxes that relate to Tobago. Now, granted, we have not done a great job at that because we have not ensured that all of the multinational entities do actually present their taxes for the part of their economic activity that happens in Tobago. And what are we talking about? We have all of these banks, we have all of these large-scale furniture companies and that kind of thing, these large-scale groceries and that kind of thing that are national. But when they do their taxes and when they pay their taxes, they pay them as a single entity, and that is paid to the national purse. What we have to put in place is a mechanism to force them to pay those in Tobago. And it's one of the things that we campaigned on when we were running for elections a couple of years ago, and it's one of the mechanisms that we are still grappling with to put that in place to ensure that all of the economic activity that is happening on the island, that the taxes associated with those are actually remitted in Tobago so that the Tobago House of Assembly could have access to that. And the current THA Act speaks to the fact that if the amount of taxes that we collect is actually way greater than what our estimates, our budget estimates are, then we get to keep 50% of the excess. So it really is an incentive for us to put the mechanisms in place to collect all of the taxes that relate to Tobago in Tobago, so that we can use those monies as our revenue for the island.
And where are we in getting to that point?
So we've so many areas that needed fires out that honestly that has not necessarily been at the top of our list of things, but it is something that the technicians are actually working on, and when we are ready to roll it out fully, that announcement will be made. That announcement will certainly be made to the public.
Now, what is also interesting in the conversation yesterday, or from the announcements that was made by the minister yesterday, was the mass expansion of Caribbean Airlines. 4 new ATRs, three other like several other airplanes are going to be acquired for the route, and also there is this mandate for Caribbean Airlines to sort of fill in the gap where Liat left off and so on. And they're also pursuing cargo operations within the region. But there was nothing mentioned on increasing the flights for Tobago and getting us back to the pre-COVID schedule.
You know, sat in the parliament yesterday, and I actually said it to one of my colleagues. I said, I kind of feel sitting here, and this is me being punished for something that I've done wrong. Because you have to sit here and you have to listen to all of these insults. And you have to get on your face, and you have to be diplomatic, and you have to continue having these cordial relationships, and you have members of the public then telling us that we need to not be so adversarial, and telling Farley that he needs to temper his words, and all of these things, when this is the reality of what we are facing. It's one of the reasons why this week, oh no, it was last week, in the Tobago House of Assembly legislature, that we raised a motion to create in Tobago a Tobago transportation company. And that will be a special purpose company of the Tobago House of Assembly, whose task is it to ensure that all of the transportation issues that we currently face on the island is treated with. And that would mean possibly looking for other suppliers of transportation, encouraging private entities to come in and provide inter-island. And when we say inter-island, we don't necessarily just mean between Trinidad and Tobago, but between Tobago and Grenada and some of the other islands that are right there, or having airlines come in outside of Caribbean Airlines to possibly help us with the routes between Trinidad and Tobago and the routes between Tobago and the rest of the world, and ensuring that even on the ground we have a mechanism that works way better than what PTSC is doing. Now PTSC runs a pretty decent ship in Tobago, but it needs to be more frequent, to be more detailed. The networks need to be better designed and that kind of thing. So for example, we could have like a hub in Roxborough that then allows a smaller vehicles to go to Charlottesville and Palace Fair and that kind of thing. So that is why we went to the House last week to debate having that Tobago transportation company. And that would then help us treat with some of these issues, because again, we continue to see that the government of Trinidad and Tobago does not really see us as side by side, does not really see us as an integral part of this nation state, does not see us as half of them, and everything in their power to ensure that we do not get to be side by side. But the reason why, I personally believe that the reason why Tobago voted so overwhelmingly for us in December 2021 was because they recognized that they needed individuals in Tobago who were willing to take up the mantle to make some of these very difficult decisions and to execute them. And that is what we have been doing thus far.
All right. And then, as you mentioned PTSD, actually, I mean, we didn't really hear too much about PTSD from the minister. I mean, of course, maybe when the Minister of Works and Transport gives his presentation in the budget debate in the next coming weeks, or days, I should say, we might be able to hear a bit more from him. But there was no mention of a new bus terminal for Tobago that's been a sore point on the island for such a long time, what, 20 years or more?
Yeah, I think they've really just decided that they're not going to remind the Tobagonians that this is something they've promised all of these years. and hopefully hoping that we would all forget that this is something that they had promised. But again, this is why we went ahead with the Tobago, the transportation company debate, and we were able to pass. So we now have a legal authority for the Tobago, for the Executive Council to then create this special purpose company to treat with these transportation issues. And this we will do. One of the things I need to state is that when we've come in and we've recognized that there are many things that are not working the way they should. And what we're doing really is asking Tobagonians for the time to do what you have elected us to do. It's been less than 2 years. I would have loved for us to have been way further along in some of these quote unquote mandate promises that we've had. But we are doing the best that we can given the limited resources that we've been given, and we continue to tread on to ensure that we provide the best that we can for the island.
All right. And now moving on to some of the other things that was spoken about quite a bit in the budget yesterday was that of the plans for the SMEs, our small and medium-sized businesses, which we know basically it's what the private sector is here in Tobago. And amongst one of the plans was that move to deal with the Forex issue and creating a facility for small and medium-sized businesses to be able to access Forex outside of a credit card arrangement and so on. From what you heard, are you confident, or what is your take on these measures that were mentioned?
We know how difficult it is to get foreign exchange. Even as a government official, I need to travel out of Trinidad and Tobago. I have to go with a letter to the bank stating that Dr. Faith should get $500 US, which is absolutely ridiculous in that this is where we are at. So I welcome any opportunity for us to do better at those things. Let me highlight something that I heard yesterday, though, that we need to be very conscious of. While speaking about the digital age and ensuring that our small and medium businesses are in a place to benefit from, using it and that kind of thing, the minister identified the fact that 80-something% of our small businesses do not have bank accounts. And I sat there and I thought to myself, I wonder if the minister has actually ever tried to open a bank account in Trinidad and Tobago, and ever tried to open a bank account as an individual, so a private account, and then try to open a bank account as a business or as an NGO. It is like pulling teeth. It is the most difficult process ever. And I can understand why entities don't have bank accounts, because it simply is taking too much effort. And that goes to the ease of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago. It is very, very, very difficult. If you are a small or medium business manager or entity, to actually do business in Tobago because of all of the bureaucratic red tape that you have to jump through. So instead of saying, surprisingly, 80-something% of the businesses don't have bank accounts, the question you need to ask those is why. And they would tell you it is because all of the paperwork they have to bring, all of the they have to bring, it is just too onerous on them to do it, and therefore they function in the unofficial economies of Trinidad and Tobago because we are forcing them to do that. So if we are really about trying to develop small and medium enterprises, we need to ensure that the ease of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago is much easier than it is now. To be honest, the banking system does not make it easy at all, and that is a big chunk of why we are way behind as it relates to many of these things.
Well, there was also this push to go towards a cashless society, and part of being a cashless society is having data connection, but we still have problems with data connection around Tobago. So has there been any discussion about, improving the data connection, first of all, for us to even begin to have that conversation about moving cashless?
Yeah, so we have actually been having conversations with the telecommunications the various private entities on the island to see what needs to be done to provide better service to Tobago. And it is the ongoing conversations. I would prefer not to go into the details because some of these are, in essence, kind of trade secrets for the entities because of what they are planning to do. But it is a critical thing for us to really actually be able to communicate with each other if we are to go cashless, and that is critical. Now, a big chunk, unfortunately, I give this example. The things that we are talking about in Trinidad and Tobago as in new technologies as relates to cashlessness have actually been part of the world for the last 10, 20, 30 years. In Tanzania, several years ago while I was in school, while I was in college, I went to Tanzania, and I remember seeing Maasai men in the Maasai with very rudimentary cell phones, and they've been able to do banking, e-banking, electronic banking on their cell phones out in the middle of the Serengeti or wherever, because they've developed that system. And this was, 20 years ago we're talking about. So the fact that Trinidad and Tobago is now at this point having this conversation is really, really proof that we are decades behind the rest of the world, and we simply need to come up to the times to ensure that it is done. This is we really just, I don't know what it is actually that is preventing us from being closer to where the rest of the world is when it comes to these technologies.
Mm-hmm. And especially even in terms of getting, a simple thing as a card reader, a links machine and so on, it's so difficult because when you speak to a lot of businesses, they tell you, because even if they get it, they might even only be able to, they would have a limit as to how much they might be able to transact on that machine and so on. And I don't know if you're seeing on your end, but are we seeing those conversations happening about how do we address these stipulations that are put on by the banking sector onto the business sector, and that is actually preventing some of us moving towards taking up those technology more, moving towards those cashless things a bit more and that sort of thing?
Yeah, these are conversations that we are having. And as I said before, I am yet to figure out why it is as difficult as it is. I think it is part of us trying to prevent the unethical or illegal activities from infiltrating our banking system. But the reality is that those who are doing the illegal or unethical things are the ones who are able to circumvent the system and use the banks anyway and do what they have to do. So all of these roadblocks are simply preventing the small man, the small woman from getting into the formal financial systems. And this is, for example, the last couple of years, we had all of these issues with these susus and that kind of thing, because the small man finally found a mechanism to do economic activities that the banks were preventing them from doing. And we see how all of that blew up anyway. But it just tells us that we need to make ease of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago significantly easier than what it is right now.
I want to thank you so much for being on with us. It was certainly a pleasure speaking with you this morning. I know this is a discussion that is not yet over yet. We have a lot more to unpack on the national budget, but we're certainly looking forward to, just the future.
Certainly, and we at the Tobago House of Assembly, we will go in deeper, look at what's happening, and then we will continue having the conversation. Thanks for having me.
All right, great. Well, viewers, we got to go for a break, and when we come back, we got more on GMT, so don't go anywhere.
The energy fill the skies. I say thanks a favor to wake up and hear my neighbor.
Right now, Tobagonians are just currying down to Bon Accord right in Stowbay Local Road. You know why? To come down and shop at Authentic Builders General Hardware, the only hardware store in Tobago that is giving you guys Trinidad prices. So for instance, such as steel, 1/2 and 5/8, $7,895. 5/8 construction ply for $260. Every single thing that you will need to do your home renovation or start your new construction, we have it right here. And to get your quotation, it's very easy. Just WhatsApp us at 272-1990 and we will do your free WhatsApp quotation for you.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Book your passage and come on over.
Jimmy's Holiday Resorts has 1, 2, and 3 bedroom, fully self-contained apartments located at the heart of Crown Point. Minutes walk to the popular beaches, restaurants, bars, and the airport. Enjoy our amazing amenities such as fully equipped apartments, complete with Wi-Fi, AC, TV, and a pool, and a mini-mart on the compound. Call 639-8292 or 8929. Jimmy's Holiday Resorts is your family's home away from home.
Wait, I don't even have suit and thing for this wedding. Why getting them things?
Call a port right over there.
Alright, thanks.
The Port Mall, where the varieties are large from your favorite stores, from restaurants to salons and from clothing stores to jewelry stores, located at Sangsas Hills, Scarborough, Tobago. Telephone number is 868-334-6589.
Wow. I didn't expect to see you here. Look good.
Thanks. It's all because of you and Port Mall. But here now, I'm going to our wedding. You want to join me?
Yeah, that's okay.
Alright.
Beat the rush and come on down to the Port Mall.
Are you looking for a place for your loved ones? Heavenly Care welcomes you. Located at Northside Road opposite Massey Motors, we offer a variety of services. These include doctor visitations, social activities, geriatric care, and much more. Contact us at 277-9595 or visit us at Northside Road opposite Massey Motors. At Heavenly Care, compassion is at the heart of all care.
Yeah. Hey. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denicia. Let's go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are switching our conversations this morning to the THA Awards that's coming up. And we are being joined this morning by the Communications Director within the Office of the Chief Secretary, Ms. Avian Parks. So special good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, Candace. Good morning to all your viewers and listeners. I feel like a bit of a home buddy on the Tobago.
Certainly.
Of this program.
Certainly. You're part of our family. Now, we have the THA Awards coming up very soon and the closing date for nominations.
That's right, Candace. So I was here about 2.5 weeks ago when we opened nominations for the Tobago Day Awards 2023. So this is really a reminder to persons that you still have a few days to submit your nominations. So the deadline is this Friday, October 6th, 4 p.m. So we are encouraging persons, you still have a few days to submit those names of individuals or groups.
Now, can you give us an idea of what are the awards that are available and those people that we can nominate? Can we nominate just anybody? Is there a criteria that they have to meet?
Right. So, Candice, what I indicated previously is when, for these awards, when you are nominating or submitting your nomination, you nominate for a sphere of activity, such as sport, academics, public service, political service, that kind of thing. Now, on our ads, you will see categories of awards. So these are the areas that persons are going to be awarded in. However, when you are filling out the form, you aren't filling out for a category. So we have an awards committee that sits and deliberates. It's spearheaded by the sitting chief administrator, and they will determine what award persons are deserving of. So yes, we have the Tobago Medal of Honor, Gold, Silver, Bronze, and the Chief Secretary's Award. I shall just go through them very quickly. And the Medal of Honor, Distinguished and Outstanding Service to Tobago. Medal of Honor, Silver, Long and Meritorious Service to Tobago. Medal of Honor, Bronze, Loyal and Devoted Service Beneficial to Tobago in any field of human endeavor, gallantry or human action. So you'll see this one is not just about activities in terms of progress and development of Tobago, but it could have been a heroic act or, just something great. We have awarded persons for gallantry. And then we have the Chief Secretary's Award for Outstanding Contributions, Significant Achievements towards the Development of Tobago, the eligibility period, November 2022 to October 2023. So it's only the Chief Secretary's Award that has a time frame. So it's within the last year. The others are over a period of time. And as I said, it can be an individual you nominate or it can be a group. So your youth groups, your police youth groups, your NGOs, your CBOs, your faith-based organizations, all these groups can also be nominated and vie for an award, similar to the national awards.
Certainly. And last year, when we looked at the awards last year, we actually recognized quite a lot of people. So is there a limit this year or are we still open?
I can't say whether there is a limit, but yes, for 2022, which actually happened in February of 2023 for unavoidable circumstances, it was probably our biggest recipient list. Whether that is going to happen this year again, I'm not certain. I can't say, but we'll certainly see how that goes. So after the awards committee deliberates and they compile their list, the list is then sent on to the Chief Secretary and the Executive Council for final approval. So that is basically the process. Now, just in terms of accessing the nomination forms and submitting the forms, I'll quickly go through that again for persons who may have missed it before. So you can go to the THA website, which is www.tha.gov.tt. You can download the form there, you can fill it out there, you can return it to the email address oca.secretary@tha.gov.tt, or as I like to say, for those who are not very tech savvy or prefer the traditional way, we have catered for you as well. So you can come into the office at Smithfield Plaza, and that is located directly opposite the People's Pentecostal Church, or next to where TRHA was located, or diagonally opposite Rapid Response. So those are three main landmarks to find us. You go to the third floor, and that's the Chief Administrator's office. You can collect a physical form there, and you can also return the physical form there.
Great. And, this is something that we want to have a lot of people being able to access, right? And as you mentioned, there is no limit to, the people that can be nominated. But is there any specifics that the committee looks for from our people? I mean, what about in terms of people who have received awards before and that sort of thing?
So I have seen repeat awardees, and of course, if you are looking at progress and development over a period of time, there are things you could have done in the first 5 years. You may have done something significant in the second 5, you know. So I don't know that there is any limit. I don't want to speak on behalf of the committee because I've never sat on the committee, and it tends to be external persons. So as far as I'm aware, the only internal person in terms of the THA is the chief administrator, who spearheads. So they really try to ensure it's a very transparent process, right? So I don't really want to speak on behalf of the committee. What I want to mention, though, which I think is significant, and really just to emphasize and remind persons that the Tobago Day Awards is held on December 4th every year to commemorate the new incarnation of the Tobago House of Assembly. So that's when we really remember the new formation of the Tobago House of Assembly from 1980. So people tend to still ask, when is Tobago Day? Tobago Day is December 4th every year.
Certainly. And also looking ahead, we have the school calendar competition coming up pretty soon as well that people should get involved in.
Yes, so we have the Chief Secretary's Tobago Secondary Schools Art Competition. We are in our 10th year, and I'm really, really proud to say that. And this competition has been spearheaded by the Department of Information. It was started under my predecessor, Joanna Barrows, and commendations, to her for starting up this program.
Yes.
And successive chief secretaries have stuck with it, they've liked it, and they have encouraged it. So I'm also grateful to all the chief secretaries who have encouraged it and, ensured that it stayed as one of the events of the department. So it's the 10th anniversary. The theme this year, Greatest Little Island on the Planet, or Tobago Mantra. We are looking forward to the submissions from the secondary school students. So it is only secondary school students who can enter. However, as mentioned previously, you do not have to be in your art program or in your school's art program to enter. So you can be a student, you are not doing art as a subject for CXC or A-levels, but you like art, you do art as a hobby, you do good art, you can submit an entry. You can enter the competition and have your principal sign off. So we have had a student who was not in her art program in her school, and she did win the competition, actually. So I just really encourage those students who are that way inclined. It is a platform to encourage students, the artistic students, to let them know art, visual arts, it is a viable career path. So it's not only about the doctors and the lawyers or the communications professionals. Art is a viable career path, and we want to encourage those students who are that way inclined.
And when we looked at what we've seen over the years, we've seen such beautiful
Amazing
art come out in those calendars.
Yes.
So you just definitely want to keep encouraging you guys to submit your pieces.
Yes, and this year in particular, I am so grateful and excited because for the first time, we were able to bring on the corporate community. So we have sponsors. We are able to give more prizes. So all the prizes are not solely covered or donated by the Tobago House of Assembly. So I would like to mention our sponsors: First Citizens, Republic Bank, Unit Trust, B-Mobile, Penny Savers, E-Idcot, and we also partnered with Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy, Education, Research and Technology, and Community Development and Sport. So what we have this year, Candice, is normally or traditionally, the first prize winner will receive $3,000. This year, in addition to the $3,000, they'll be getting $2,000 in units. They'll be getting a Wacom tablet and a 2-week internship at the ePixel Studio down at E-Idcot. So it's a really exciting competition.
Certainly.
This year, we also have consolation prizes. We'll have 6 consolation prizes worth $1,000 each. That is for persons who don't make it in the first 12. So the first 12 comprise the Chief Secretary's calendar for the following year. So outside of, and the 11 other finalists outside of the first place normally get $1,500 each. So this year, in addition to those 12, we are giving 6 consolation prizes worth $1,000 each. And in addition to that, each participant will receive a $200 voucher, right, for art supplies. So those who didn't place at all, You aren't going, so let me say those who didn't place at all, right? Let me emphasize that. So those who received prizes, you wouldn't get the $200 voucher. But those who did not place at all, you didn't place in the top 12, you didn't receive a consolation prize, you are not going to walk away with anything. You are going to get a $200 voucher for art supplies. So we have really widened it. Thanks to our corporate sponsors, we have broadened it, and we are really pleased about that.
All right. I want to thank you so much, Ms. Avian Parks, for being on with us and for giving us those updates. And certainly, if for parents out there, if you have young ones that are very much in secondary school and into art, encourage them to take
You still have a few more days. So the deadline for the art competition is Wednesday, 11th October. So that's next Wednesday. So I don't know how long it takes to do an art piece, but if you can whip it up in that space of time, great.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And
Thank you,
viewers,
Candice.
thank you for being with us. We are now at the end of our program, but we would see you again tomorrow. So have a safe and wonderful one.
The energy fill the sky.